Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 593. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Matt, it's Titanfall 2 week on the Free Cheese podcast. Time to add it to the list. When was the last time you played Apex Legends?
Recently. It was some
Really?
time. It was sometime in I want to say earlier in 2024. So
Okay,
maybe not
so
like terribly recently, but it was within the confines of time.
yeah. Who's your go-to character in there? Are you
Haha.
still running?
See, that's where it's been so long. I don't even know.
You used to play I don't know, I have no idea any of the names. But I remember you played the robot.
Yeah,
At
with
least in the
the
long
grappling,
lineup.
with the grappling hook. I think I
Yeah.
still used him. I think there was like a support character I was using too. More
Yeah.
focused on healing, but yeah.
Um, I can't remember a single Apex Legends character name.
Noctis.
Is that a name? I'll
No.
believe it. All right. I have no idea. Do you think after playing the campaign of Titanfall 2, Apex Legends makes more sense?
I mean, yeah, by the slimmest of margins, still doesn't explain the weird areas and stuff, but sure.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Had you played you played Titanfall 2 before Apex came out, right?
Yeah. I just never
Yeah.
beat the campaign.
I thought I'd played this before, but I don't think I did. When I went back and looked at achievements on Xbox, it looks like I started the campaign after Apex had come out. So I think I played Apex and was like, this is cool, but I'd rather play full campaign and a full traditional multiplayer kind of thing, if you will. This podcast, for you listening and watching out there, every week we talk about a single game and we review that game and rank that game on a list that we call the list, which you can find over at thefreecheese.com/the list. We'll be ranking it at the end of the episode, but first we're going to talk about it. Titanfall 2, developed by Respawn Entertainment, published by Electronic Arts. Released on the PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One in North America first on October 28th, 2016. Take note of that date. The back of the box reads, Become one. Pilot and Titan unite as never before in Titanfall 2. Experience a single-player campaign that explores the unique bond between man and machine. Dominate the competition in multiplayer action featuring 6 all-new Titans, enhanced pilot abilities, an expanded customization system, new maps, weapons, and much more. Captivating single-player campaign, powerful new Titans, deeper multiplayer action. Available for 2 to 16 players if you're playing online. Jot that down. Matt, you added Titanfall 2 to the list as your first game of the year.
Sure did.
Why did you add this, and why did you want to put it up front?
The upfront, I think, is just the way the cards fell. There's no good reason for the upfront. However, I don't want to reveal too much of my hand here. I've kind of said on air that Doom is the inspiration to a lot of the picks this year. But without saying too much, I wanted to get a more modern first-person shooter on the list. I feel like I've said this to you before, but like I've thought of getting Ways of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare onto this list, and that was of an era where we cannot get that back, much like we experienced a Little Big Planet, and that game would be completely impacted by that, and I just don't think that's going to make for a great conversation. So luckily, Titanfall's multiplayer community is still there just enough so that way we were able to go back and play some multiplayer before this, and not just based off memory. But I never played the campaign. I played the first two levels, I believe, after revisiting this, but I never finished it. And I've always constantly heard how good the campaign is. So yeah, that was kind of like, modern FPS. This kind of has that just enough of a multiplayer community still. And I never played the campaign, so a combination of all those factors kind of landed it there.
It's funny how quickly things have shifted though since this game's release. Like even something as subtle as like Apex introducing the ping system changed first person shooters so much, especially like playing cooperatively on things. But how else have you seen like the shift with all this whole genre, right? Like what else have you seen? Because you stay a little bit more focused into it than I do.
I mean, I think Titanfall 1 brought this like movement aspect. This, you know, don't be tanky, don't let sprint be this thing where you put your gun down and you can't shoot kind of deal. Um I feel like the first Titanfall kind of brought that in, and then this was the next like fluid level of that. And you do kind of see that with the games that are coming out, because Advanced, like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, I think it's the one before Infinite Warfare, which is the one that is out at the same time as Titanfall 2. Um, like that is the one that Advanced Warfare introduces like the jetpack kind of like shifting, maneuvering, dodging stuff. Infinite Warfare goes full out more so with it. I think maybe I'm wrong, but Black Ops 3, I know Black Ops 3 has that kind of stuff in it, but I think is somewhere in this realm as well. Like Titanfall kind of brought the movement to kind of where it's at. I don't want to say maybe at now, but like the beginning of where it's at. Um, and then the other thing was just like the World War II stuff's getting stale. And the even just like the modern stuff's getting stale. And I think Titanfall and its sci-fi ish landscape kind of like again is another like trend center for what is to come. And I think a good example of that is what you saw with Battlefield. Although like they don't go future, they get away from World War II and from like modern entries, which what they did with like Battlefield 3. Can't remember 4 is after 1. I'm losing my track of time here, but yeah, like it's a
I
big
think
shift.
one was after four, technically. I
So
think
it's
one is the one that launched the year that this
It
launched.
did. I know it did. I just can't
Yeah.
remember if 4 is before or after. But yeah, like they get away from modern and just get a different time period just to breath of fresh air. Um, so yeah, I think just those two things kind of, I've seen the trend from there. And honestly, like there's a bunch of stuff now. I mean, this stuff just always keeps coming out. I think Call of Duty is a good kind of like pulse to kind of follow, whether it's the right pulse, whether they're doing the right thing or not. They are trying to follow that trend a little bit, and they're still doing like weird, like you'll have your Modern Warfare, like they're constantly mixing up their time frames, their types of like sci-fi or whatever. You still have your Modern Warfare. Black Ops has been going into like the weird espionage, covert operations, and this one goes into the future again. But the one before that was in what's that? With like the Cold War era. I forget my history and timeline, the time frame and stuff is terrible. But like during the Cold War era, so they're mixing, constantly mixing curveballs, and I think that's because of something like the first Titanfall in this regard.
Is there a reason you think? Uh, is it just Battlefield 1 releasing day and date with this? Or is there another reason why you think Titanfall 2 didn't hit the way that it could have?
I think the biggest thing is Battlefield 1. That game took off. I don't know where its legs ended up going, but like that had an impressive showing at E3 that year. I think Everyone was hyped up for it. I never remember I was. I played a lot of Battlefield 1. Yeah, I just think they sent that game out to die. And you're always gonna have those people that play like I never played Infinite Warfare. I was not there at the time. But you're always gonna have people play Call of Duty, and it's tough to launch. I think this launched after Call of Duty, if I remember right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's tough. And
So
well, I was gonna say,
yeah,
and you have Overwatch earlier in the year too, and that didn't go anywhere.
and Overwatch kind of, yeah, I mean, that shifted a competitive online first person shooter.
The hero shooter.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like the introduction of that. And it's still, I mean, Overwatch isn't necessarily there, but how many clones have there been now that, I mean, I know it's still out there, but like it's not at the height of
Oh
what
no,
it
I agree.
was.
I completely agree.
Um, but yeah, I mean, now there's obviously Marvel Rivals is the big one right now, but this is where my ignorance to a lot of these is going to become apparent. There's a bunch that have kind of come and gone, right? Like, didn't Ubisoft have one? Do they still have one? What is Valorant? Is Valorant one of those, or is that
Valorant's
just
one of
another?
those.
Okay, yeah. Like, I feel like there's a lot of Valorant adjacent things out there trying to do the hero shooter thing.
Concord.
Right, right. Yeah, Concord. But again, another like example of it's hard to hit with any of these things. And yeah, I mean, do you think Respawn made the smart bet spinning and going into more the Apex territory? Because Apex kind of combines the hero shooter with the battle royale craze of the time. Do you think that was the right pivot?
Probably. Because, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember the wave of momentum this game had. I know it came out, everyone was like, dude, this is good, and just no one was playing it comparatively. I mean, people were playing it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
comparatively. I don't know if we get the same cry for Titanfall 3 today as we do without Apex sticking around and keeping Respawn kind of in business a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, I know they're staying in business. Those two Star Wars games, I think, have done well. Jedi
Yeah.
Survivor and whatever the other one was, the first one. But yeah, I think just sticking around enough just to, you know, with Apex, and Apex still does good.
Yeah.
I think that just seeing the success of that, they're like, man, what could they do with Titanfall 3 now?
We'll talk more about what they could do with Titanfall 3 before we wrap up. Tell me about Titanfall 2. What's the game's premise? What's the setup for gameplay? You talked about the fast-paced movement in 1. How does 2 continue that and build on it?
So this one, so already two. So I did not play a ton of 1. I think I played like 2 matches of 1, and then like the next day, whatever Xbox Gold subscription I was using at the time expired. So unfortunate, but already different from Titanfall 1 was just a pure multiplayer game. It had no single player campaign, and they were trying to, from what I remember, it folded the story into the multiplayer and cutscenes and stuff like that. This one, definitive, just like here's a campaign, there's your multiplayer, and then the multiplayer was very much like build your classes, and it had a system of unlocking stuff with levels, or you got a currency that you could unlock future things that were far off if you wanted to. But it was definitely one of those set up that way. But as far as the gameplay, it is a quick, fast first-person shooter where like running on walls, incredible leaps. It's quick, and you're constantly moving, and you can zip around the map, especially if you know it. It's crazy how fast you can get around the map. And then, of course, the big hook, Titan in Titanfall, the old prepare for Titanfall line, doesn't happen without the mechs, of course. They're called Titans in this game. And I am not a big mech person, even after playing what I did of Armored Core. like,
Oh,
it's
yeah, yeah.
like they always feel heavy and like just not. There's just something about them that that doesn't click with me. And this is the first game, maybe still the only game that I've felt absolutely comfortable in a mech
Oh,
from the time I get into it, from the time I die. Granted, it takes a little bit of practice to get to know your abilities and stuff like that, but I think all the Titan types are cool. But yeah, just thinking with the gameplay, like there's so much, like you get in and out of a Titan. You can let the Titan auto fight if you want to, hop into it, and then there's like this mechanic as the Titan against other uh, Titans where you can hijack them, or like pull out a battery for a core for your own for your own Titan or an ally's Titan. It's just mass chaos that's happening, and it's a lot of fun. Not to mention like the little AI mobs that are constantly around. Just to
yeah, that's a different change.
I said, I mean, I understand why that's there. It's a nice touch to have that there to make it feel like more like a war zone and to let like less competent players get a chance at some points and some mobs and stuff like that. But no, it it's crazy, and it's tough to it really is tough to explain without playing it if you've never played it. Um, like I'm trying to think like some of the more modern Black Ops games that dive into sci-fi mimic it, but I think Titanfall.
Nothing feels quite like it. No,
I mean, I know the
especially the wall running and the jumping and the double jump, like all of that stuff, stringing
Black
that stuff
Ops
together.
3 had some of that stuff to it. It was just like I don't I it just maybe just because I was so used to Titanfall 2, but like it
Yeah,
just
and
felt more better, more better.
the mech part of it, I think, is the key difference, right? Like
Yeah.
building that up. It's the same thing. Like this game, this is made by the people. In case you're unfamiliar with Respawn, these are the people that made, um, I mean, Modern Warfare 2 and before.
I
What was
think
their? Do
the
you know their?
I think the main did he leave after Modern Warfare 2? Was it
It sounds.
Vince
I think they
Impala
did.
and I forget the other guy's name, or the Jason West and Vince Impala are the main two names.
Yeah, they're out of Infinity Ward. They leave there and start Respawn. They go from Activision to EA, and they kick off this whole new thing to make a game called Titanfall. And that was kind of the big shakeup. It was honestly like a big. It was a shakeup. It was a surprise. It was. I don't know. I feel like you didn't really hear. You still don't really hear stories like that too frequently.
Yeah, it was after Modern Warfare 2.
But it still has the Call of Duty DNA to it, right? Like
Oh,
it
for sure.
still feels a lot like that. Some of the like level up mechanics, the within a match, like the fact that you're getting like kill streak rewards, those types of things, like that's all very Call of Duty inspired. But yeah, for me, the movement stands out about this. And this, I can't say that this feels better or worse gunplay wise than Call of Duty, but that's the thing I notice whenever I go back to a game like this or Call of Duty is like how good it feels to shoot a gun in those games, which of course, like it's how it should be. That the primary
Right.
action in these games is to shoot a gun, but I think like I frequently will play games where gunplay is not the emphasis. It's just sort of there. It's like another part of it. And then when you play something that's like fully dedicated to that, and there's just been hundreds of hours poured into making this gun feel like this gun feels, like it makes a difference, I think. Um, it's like a weight to it all that you don't realize otherwise. The Let me see here. I guess weapon variety. How does that compare to a Call of Duty?
You kind of have some similar classes. You have like your shotguns, your long rifles, short rifles, or like assault rifles, SMGs, that kind of stuff. They do have some energy weapons in this game, and I think they're more so focused towards like being Titan killers, like heavier weapons.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think like there's a few different types of like assault rifles and SMGs, but I think at the end of the day, you probably could just map them to like this is your AK, this is your M4, This like I think there could be some of that. But again, I think they all shoot well, and I think from what I played in the multiplayer, I think they're all viable too. I'm sure there's some unknown like absolute meta if you wanted to, or just
Sure.
some kind of gun like just a quicker time to kill than something else, hitting the same shots. But they all felt, from what I was dabbling with, viable.
Yeah, I never, not that I ever feel super competent in one of these, but I never felt like I was at a disadvantage because I chose this gun over that gun. And speaking of which, customization, where did you land on customization? Did you spend a lot of time like changing your loadout, what you could do with your Titan, which Titan you used?
Um, Typically in a game like this, I like kind of, once I find something, I get that, and then I use like a second, third class to kind of experiment to find like another like that's the one kind of thing. I didn't really do that revisit in the multiplayer. I just didn't spend a terrible amount of time with it to get to that point. But I was just trying to pick and choose different things to try out and whatever. There are definitely some Titans I'm better with than others and stuff like that. But I just never I never like really landed on that class. I just was sampling different things as I had them, because part of it was I was constantly on the uphill battle to unlock stuff.
Yeah, yes. And it's, you unlock things quickly enough, but there's a lot to unlock. And you were also at the disadvantage of jumping between platforms, which progress doesn't carry over. And yeah, that's something too, like that's a big change that's shifted since 2016 is the ability to like carry your progress between platforms.
Right.
Um, I it's on the calendar, so I can say that we are playing Anthem this season, and Anthem we'll have that episode up at the end of February. But kind of like around Anthem, I've played a bunch of nonsense. I played Suicide Squad. I played oh gosh, there was something else I was playing. I don't know, but either way, Warframe's the other one. After Anthem, I was like, well, I should go back to Warframe. That seems like a good thing to do. And in doing that, like it's so nice because at some point in the last few years, I never got far in Warframe at all, but I made enough progress on PlayStation like a decade ago. And then when the Switch version came out, I played a lot of that. If you'll recall, the Meat Man recommended it, and you got to listen to the Meat Man. But I played enough of it on Switch, and then I kind of fell off of it again. But at some point, they did an account like cross save, all of that, but you could also merge your accounts, and it would merge progress. So now I'm playing on Xbox and I've merged everything all together, but I have all of the progress I made on PlayStation and Switch in one account. And it's cool because, like, I didn't make much progress, but the progress I made on the one account with one of the frames, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have all of that now. I can just jump back into it if I want. And it's like, it's made it so much more approachable. Like, I wanted to go back to DC Universe Online as well, and you just kind of can't. You can, but not on a new platform. And then I think Apex has the same thing where you sign in and you can jump across.
I
Maybe I might
believe
be
so.
wrong, but I feel like everything has it now. You know what I mean? Like that's just like a given that's how it works, which is very different because this is also the era. Yeah, we're pre Fortnite at this point, but this is back before crossplay was widely accepted, and even when it was starting to become widely accepted, PlayStation would not do it at all.
Not at first.
Um, no. So
It's
it
unsafe for the kids.
no. Yeah, right. I want to come back to multiplayer campaign. That's I think, a big draw to this game, but it's also the draw that made you add it to the list this year because you'd left it unfinished. So, how do you think this one differs from other FPS campaigns?
So one, I think the speed of it just, it's just one is just different there, but they do the correct thing that I think some other single player campaigns, the game never feels stale. There's never that moment where I'm like, I wish this kind of would end. And
Yeah.
in a moment that it might, the level ends you're presented a new level, and is usually in a different just like area. So you got new eye candy to look at, but they usually give you a mechanic, and the mechanic just brings whether they meant to like whether it meant to or it just felt like it brought so much more variety back into the different into the gameplay loop, and you were back hooked just like that. And I think that is very important when you're essentially doing your first person man mowing down mob after mob of enemies and progressing through a level. I mean, that's essentially an FPS, right?
Yeah.
But if you can do your mix-ups and you can get it to not feel stale for the entire duration of a campaign, I think you did right. I think the shorter first-person shooter campaigns are effective at this. Like your 5-hour ones, 5 to 7 hour ones, I think are good. The ones that range from like 10 to 15 typically struggle with that. But no, I think that is this campaign's like main thing is like there's a switch up in the gameplay or in the level design or something like that that just keeps things fresh. And it also helps that you're in and out of a Titan at various points of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's key, crucial to this.
Yeah, and it's just very well done how they do it. I think 99% of the time.
Did you have a specific mechanic that you remember standing out as like a? Because they introduce these like new sub weapons, these new like little things you have to use throughout the gameplay. It's almost like puzzle solving. It kind of feels like a Zelda game to an like you could way macro, but yeah.
No, Mission 5, effect and cause. They give you the time manipulation.
Yes.
Where you
Yeah,
go like
that's
it back in time. I don't remember. I don't remember. It's like an alternative timeline, or it goes back in time. But that
I thought back, but yeah, it might be
that
alternate.
that thing, it led to like different platforming opportunities where you had to use it, getting in and it. I think that might be my favorite level of the entire game. But like that mechanic right there was just like, oh, they know the science to what they're doing, because it's right in the middle of the campaign. I think it literally is. It literally is mission 5 of 9.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Dead middle. Yeah, because you like on its own, this campaign does enough different. I think for me, every level felt unique from the last, just in terms of design, layout, etc. And like, even though so much of it, when you like really pull back and like look at the path through, so much of it is just like this cover wall, this cover wall. Like there's a lot of that. Like there's still so much room for improvisation and things like that throughout each stage. But yeah, it's those secondary abilities, those things that kind of are woven in that make you, I don't know. What am I trying to say? They make it unique, right? It makes it so that it continues to feel fresh for the duration of it. And something too that like I played this, whatever I said it was, 2018, whenever Apex came out. So revisiting it this time, I was curious, like, how much do I remember? I forgot most of it. I remembered like the ending of the story and I remembered like the basic opening, but that's about it. So I forgot so much of this. But in terms of like moment to moment and gameplay, like little stages, like there's little set pieces I recalled, but largely like it felt new again. But even if it hadn't, I feel like there's enough difference from level to level that you can kind of just run these over and over again. Um, is there anything significant story wise that you want to call out or talk about?
I think because of the way the training and the game opens up, they really do make that first time you get the pilot helmet and get into Titan really cool. It feels earned.
Yeah.
Kind of going through that first mission as yourself, and then finally like the end of it, and then going into mission 2 like you are in the Titan. I think it's really well done. I think this is the thing that I don't know how I would personally rank this compared to some of the other like mainstay single player campaigns, but like Halo and the better Call of Duties, I could always point to like a moment where I was like, oh shit, like things just got real. I don't know if this ever had that moment per se. Um, Maybe the last level when you're given like the dire you're in trouble kit. I forget what they ended up calling it, but with the smart pistol. Um,
Yeah.
I that kind of had shades of it, along with like that the end of cause and effect when like time stands still because that whatever that thing was called blew up or whatever. But like like Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, I could always point the nuke as being like that oh shit moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Halo, the flood, the oh shit moment. Halo 2 when you're the arbiter for the first time. Oh shit moment. Like Modern Warfare 2 when that asshole shoots Ghost and then you. Oh shit. Like, they all Titanfall
Have
2
that. Yeah.
doesn't have that moment. It just plays incredibly well from start to finish. Um and yeah, I just it's right up there. I think it's super well done. And as far as like a mechanic that this just stands out, the boss fights, the Titan boss fights, I think they're well
Those are the
done.
key. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they make the Titan portions of it not just feel like this you're just constantly mowing down. It feels like you're in oh shit, you're in trouble now because you're taking on something that can kill you, kind of thing.
Yeah, and your skills are tested too, which like you for me playing a Titan in the multiplayer is so rare because I'm not like I'm not getting enough kills to respawn that Titan super fast. I'm just kind of getting it as it naturally comes and whatever. But usually once I'm in it, it's not for long before someone destroys it or whatever. So it's the campaign that let me have the most time in a Titan and get more comfortable with that and the movement, um, the sub weapons, those types of things. Uh, yeah,
The game's also very forgiving about letting you change class like almost literally anytime, which
yeah.
is nice. So you could get this like if you died a couple times, you get the sense of like what is killing you on the opposing Titan or in that area, and then just hard counter it with whatever you have available, which I think was super well done.
Um,
Oh, and
yeah.
one last thing I have for my notes with like moments in this campaign. I just like that your pilot, like the pilot you are, is just constantly is given promotions because dude in front of you died.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Happens I think like 3 times in this game. It's like, well,
Yes.
congratulations, you're now this. So our operation is still to continue the mission. It's like, okay.
Um, the one thing I noted, you talked a bit about the tools. The I remember the moment I got the arc tool, I had this realization like, right, this team is gonna go on to make a Metroid game. Like
Hmm.
the like having them make Star Wars eventually where they built that whole Metroidvania style search action game. The arc tool was like, they were already thinking how can we do more with this or make something more like that. Um yeah, I tried paying closer attention to the story this time around than the first time because I feel like the first time it was just sort of like, how did you phrase it before? You're a guy, go in room and kill things and keep going. Like
Mowing down mobs,
you
yeah.
still kind of are that. Like I don't know. There is like I also realize I don't know what it is, but there's I've been noticing this of myself in the last. Uh, I think it's been eternal, but I think I'm noticing it more in the last 18 months or so. I feel like I don't pay as close enough attention to things like this as like I just kind of sit, shoot, and then I'm like, oh, it's over. You know what I mean? Like I'm not thinking through or remembering everything that's happening. maybe we play too many things. I don't know, but I'm not. I just feel like my memory of things slips
No,
faster.
I don't think like the actual like the story did anything different. I mean, it definitely got you from point A to point B without any like why are we doing like everything felt like it felt serviceable at least. I think the main draw here is the dynamic between you and your Titan.
And
Um,
BT, yeah,
so I think that's the main draw as far as like story beats and emotional connection to the characters. But yeah, everything else is just plot devices to get you that mechanic to switch things up or get
yeah,
you in fun different scenarios. Was it Mission 8? The Arc is another one where like BT's just throwing you like a fastball into different ships. You're
dude,
jumping on and off of it. Like that was a lot of fun. I thought that was a cool
that
set
was
piece.
super cool. Yeah. Speaking of fun, did you have fun playing the game?
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, like I said, I don't know if it's in that like S plus tier of single player campaigns, but if it's not in there, it's in like the S tier of it because it's a lot of fun. It's from front to back, and again, you can do it in 3 or 4 shorter playthroughs, or you can sit down for the good part of early afternoon through evening and get it done. I want to say my playthrough was somewhere between the 5 to 7 hour mark, but I was
That sounds great.
playing on hard too, so I might have had some unnecessary deaths. Um, Also, just this has nothing to do with the actual movement itself, but it took me a little bit to get used to the movement in this game after playing the newest Call of Duty and having the Omni movement available to me. A little weird to go
Yeah,
back, but you get used if you're going back in time like I am, it's easy enough to get used to. It just might take a mission or two.
yeah. They do a pretty good. If you jump into the campaign, there's like a good onboarding of the actual movement stuff. You don't really get to. I don't know. I feel like for that, I was sprinting through so quickly just to like get the campaign rolling that it's like enough to get you adjusted, but you really do like start to feel it in the campaign itself. Once you unlock double jump and once you get, yeah, moving along. Before we start looking at how or talking about how this looks and how it sounds, um, just dropping back to multiplayer real quick. How do you feel like it's different, or how does it differ from the campaign in terms of? I mean, obviously
Six v
it's not a single
six.
player story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But like, what in terms of the player, like, what do you get from multiplayer you're not getting from campaign? What do you get from campaign you don't get from multiplayer?
I think some of the pilot abilities that you don't necessarily have all the time. Of course, you're limited. You have to kind of pick one or two, depending on your class or whatnot. But there's that. I think I think what it does bring well, like, because like it's tough to say what's different because I think it's obvious what's different. But I think the one thing that they do bring in from single player campaign, which is nice, are the mobs of enemies, and they're the ones from the campaign pretty much. So you kind of have an idea of what it takes to bring them down if you play the campaign. Um, I like that because it feels like a war zone. Amongst the 6v6 because it's so many for so there could be times because the maps are big enough. There could be times where you're just not around another pilot, and the action could get dull. But like having those mobs at least gives you something to shoot at as you're like kind of like figuring out what's going on, again, the sense of your surroundings and whatnot. Kind of keeps that gameplay loop going when it doesn't even deserve to in a way. But like again, I think the differences speak for themselves, right? Like it's going to be harder. You're playing against a regular human. Like your aim is going to matter. The amount of kills you're getting matters. The speed at which you're getting these kills matter. Like everything is kind of like it's heightened. Um, yeah, and then there's opportunities for more like I don't want to say co-op, but more partnerships because you can ride like an allied titan. Coordination, that kind of stuff. If you're playing, the voice chat and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's. I think the differences kind of just speak for themselves for the most part. Because again, this is very much modeled like the Call of Duty. Like your levels unlock stuff. As you unlock stuff, you have you can use that stuff now, and that applies to your abilities. The weapon or the levels within the guns themselves give you different attachments. Um, you unlock more stuff for your Titans, or just unlock more Titans. Period. Yeah, it's
Then of course all the skins and colors and
yeah. It's the look if they ripped anything off from their own game, it was definitely the leveling system.
yeah. Let's talk about look and sound. Graphics wise, still holds up
I
8
think
years
so.
later.
I think so. I
I
mean,
think so too.
look good on Series X where I played it, and on PC. So
Yeah. The cool thing with Series X, I think this happened on, might have happened on the One X, but it definitely happened once the series consoles came out. This got the FPS boost that they did with the backwards compatibility stuff, so um, it looks and runs a little bit better than it did originally on Xbox One. Um, any stages stand out in terms of visuals, graphics, look, feel, design?
I no, I like the levels though that are more in a city, like with
I
the
agree. Yeah,
like or at least like a town to kind of go in and out of buildings because I think like that's the movement that is like so cool once you learn to pull it off is like running between buildings, seeing there's a dude in the side building, learning to jump through window and then just mowing
yeah,
down guy or getting the assassination and then like out the window back doing your thing. I will say though, like even the levels that don't have that stuff though, they offer the level designs purposely done to allow like wall running and the jumping and
yeah.
stuff. Um,
It's a
I
difference too, because like when you're used to playing any other first-person shooter competitively, when we were first jumping into the multiplayer on this time around, I'm like running into buildings and there's dudes shooting me, and I'm like, oh, I need to look up because he's up. I'm not used to like you got to look in a full circle of like your visibility. There could be someone at any point in that. It's not
yeah,
just
there's
guys running at
verticality.
me. Yes,
Um,
100%.
but yeah, I would say that's the one thing. The aim assist is incredible on a controller. They pull it off, but this it plays so much better mouse and keyboard. Like just being able to like WASD and then just point with my mouse and knowing exactly what I'm doing movement wise and pointing wise, and
Yeah.
then not just like being all out of sync sometimes or over committing with your thumbsticks.
Cutscenes? Anything stand out in terms of just story, like storytelling visually in that regard?
I think that moment where I think it's the arc, it blows up or something like that, and like time sits still. I think that was like one of the cooler looking moments.
Yeah,
And the going back and forth in the two worlds and how that was handled. Because they're two completely aesthetics. Because like one's on fire and destroyed, and the other one is like the
yeah.
actual like base with people in it and stuff.
Sound wise, I mean, the score, not to be reductive, but I feel like often in a game like this, the score is going to be, you know,
I
it
really don't.
serves a purpose, but it's not, there's nothing that like stands out.
I mean, I really don't. Yeah, I mean, I guess there are scores and FPSs that would stand out if you know.
Yeah.
I
There's one I want to talk about in a minute that came out in 2016 in terms of just comparing this game to another 2016 first person shooter. But um, yeah, nothing there. I do think like sound design overall, everything sounds the way it should. I love the way that each grenade sounds unique, the guns sound unique, the little like just sound effects of being in a mech sound right. Like all of that stuff is super immersive,
prepare for
especially if you're playing
Titanfall.
with headphones. Yeah, like
Best
it
announcer line in the game.
iconic. Voice acting. I know we talked a bit about voice acting and how it can detract a bit last week, but what about
I
this game?
think BT. I can't remember the pilot's name. It was like John. It's something very generic.
Isn't it Jack?
Could be Jack.
Jack Cooper.
Very generic. um, I think Jack and BT were done very well. Nothing remarkable from like the other commanders and stuff like that. But to be fair, 80% of this campaign, it's you and BT kind of on your own. So, no, those two being solid workout.
I want to talk a bit before we get ready to give our final thoughts and rank this and everything. I want to talk a little bit about Doom from 2016.
Ooh.
And just sort of how this compares to that, because that was our big first-person shooter of the year. You played Battlefield 1, but Doom won our Game of the Year. Doom was the first-person shooter that got me back into first-person shooters, because I'd kind of fallen off after Modern Warfare 2. And Doom came out, and I was like, I should check that out. That looks like fun. And it pulled me in so hard that I was like, what have I been missing? And if it weren't for Doom, I wouldn't have gone back to Titanfall 2 when I did and all that. So how does this compare to Doom? We talked a lot about how it compares to Call of Duty, how it compares to Battlefield, but what does this do differently than Doom, or what does Doom do better? What do you think?
It's tough, right? Because I think there's a big difference in how these games were developed, right? I think Titanfall 2 was built from ground up for multiplayer, and they happened to pull off one hell of a campaign. Doom, I could be wrong, but it definitely felt like the multiplayer was an afterthought, and they built that game for the campaign.
I hope so, because that multiplayer did not appear to be a forethought.
At least from the No Clip documentary, it feels like campaign was kind of the lead design choice here. They both play quick. I have to say, I think that's where we're at in 2016. Is like, how can we make this military shooter quick? But I think they each have their different mechanics to make it feel quick. Like Titanfall 2, you're bouncing back and forth between walls. Opposing Titans, or opposing pilots in multiplayer are moving just as fast as chaotic to get like the 5 bullets into their body to get the kill. But damn it, it's satisfying when you get it because of how difficult it could be. Doom, you're just mowing down mobs and room after room after room with all your abilities, all the different guns. All the different guns kind of have to get used in that game just because of the way they give you ammo and stuff. It's just, I don't know. To Doom's degree of wanting to be get into the enemy's face. I think Titanfall kind of has an aspect of that because of how quick everything moves. And then once you get into a Titan, like, you will kind of have to come face to face with a Titan, or like you're going to have to get in the Titan's face as a pilot to either try to hijack it, get some heavy weapon shots off at it. Like, the gameplay kind of forces it too. It's not just like I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen an instance or remember an instance of like camping in Titanfall that you can get in a Call of Duty or even a Halo. Like, it's too fun to move around. Like, you're just like, you're missing out the point if you're trying to, like, I think you're always missing out the point if you're camping like Coach B, but like, you're really not getting what this game is if you're just hiding out.
Yeah, if you're just sitting still. Do you remember what you said about Titanfall 2 in 2016?
Probably underrated.
I have your quote right here.
Oh, this is fun.
This was in your end of the year wrap up. Matt Zellner's favorite games of 2016. You put Titanfall 2 at number 7 on your list. Having this game fall where it does says a lot about how I like my games. If you make a part of your game so good, I will have a tendency to ignore the not so great parts. That great part is multiplayer, the not so good is single player. The multiplayer feels like modern warfare Call of Duty, but 100 times faster and with mechs that are a ton of fun to be in. I think I'm in the minority with the single player campaign, but I love the multiplayer so much, I didn't need the single player to be good to make me feel to be good to make me feel good about my purchase and how much I love this game.
That is definitely telling of, like, I only got through the first 2 levels. I think I was 1 away from, because I think my note in my notes, it feels like once I get to like the 3rd and 4th level is when it feels like something is truly happening here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's telling of. I just didn't give it that extra half an hour.
So I take it you feel differently about the game now overall.
Yeah, yeah, definitely on the single player aspect. I'm glad I'm consistent on the multiplayer though.
Yeah. Did you like Titanfall 2 this time around?
Yes, I adored it, loved it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm happy that this one still held up. Um, I, despite us being done, I don't until the hard drive needs some space. I'm leaving this one on. I don't know how frequently I'll jump in, but
So am
the
I.
multiplayer is a good time. Yeah. Um, what would you have added to Titanfall 2 to make it better? What's it missing?
Multiplayer is tough to say because that's the kind of multiplayer like that kind of like even at the unlock level is like that's what I like. I like striving for that next level to get the next unlock so I could try it out, and it's done at a way where I'm not being thrown 15 new attachments. I have time to try out things at least once before I'm moving on to the next thing. I love and like that system it's my like cup of tea. So I wouldn't want to even see that system change. The gameplay, I think is I don't know. There's not much I don't think I can add to the gameplay of multiplayer. Joining a friend would certainly be that. That's a point
That was
of
tough.
that's a point of that's an area. Let's just say that's an area of opportunity that could be addressed in the next
Yeah.
potential one.
I think when we
It's
were doing that, you stopped to make your first negative note about the game.
yes.
Was like, yeah,
Yeah, play with a friend may be harder than most of the campaign.
yes, like you had to create a
Your own personal network.
network. That's what it's called. Yeah.
And then once
Invite me to it,
and
and
then
but it
you could
explains why when you're playing multiplayer, you're constantly getting pinged with some stranger invited you to play a game
yep.
because
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that
silly.
not the greatest system there, but
Yeah,
it once you if that's the thing. You have to you probably have to Google it to figure it out if you're not aware. As long as you get through the Google, I think you're fine once you get a setup. Because I'm sure me and you can easily just jump back in.
yeah.
I
Now
think we
that they're
have. We
there,
have. Yeah. We
yeah,
played more a couple times. Yes, that's a bit of a pain. I would say like the other thing is like, and this is a tough ask because it's how much time do you want to dedicate to writing a single player campaign? But like, I think you're just missing. Yes, the ending, of course, is that moment, right? I don't want to spoil it if you somehow haven't played it 9 years later, but like, the ending is that moment. But if there was like another, just like, like maybe one or two more just big
yeah.
like set piece moments, like
The flood.
yeah, like that,
Yeah,
or like I'm going like Modern Warfare 2 campaign. There's the like I could just name moments, just like oh, what's the type of grenade that kills all the electronics?
EMP.
Yeah, the EMP in DC. The betrayal by your commander. Oh, there was another one I said later. The last chase to get to and kill said commander. The last stand in the house in the estate map. Like the escape from favela when you're running through without weapons. You have to jump onto the like I can. In brief time, I can probably name off all these different moments that like were cool set pieces. I think there are cool levels, but the set pieces like aren't quite there.
Yeah,
But that
yeah,
I just took a couple minutes to talk about that. That is the most minor of complaints that I have.
yeah.
Really,
What about fans? Sorry, go ahead.
what you say? What about what?
I would say, what about I'm shifting a little bit. Like, what do you think about the fan base's reaction to Titanfall 2 over the years? I feel like,
I think it's. I think it's like I don't want to say cult classic because that makes it seem like no one's really playing it, but I just it has that vibe for what it should have been.
How many people asking for Titanfall 3 do you think played Titanfall 2? Percentage wise?
60.
60. Wow, I was thinking 16. Um,
I think the
that's usually the
people
way
that
it
are
goes.
realistic about asking for Titanfall 3 are the ones that play Titanfall 2, know how like good it is and maybe ways to make it better, and have played Apex and just aren't getting that itch. And there's been nothing. I don't think there's been nothing or anything like Titanfall 2 in the way it plays with mechs and the movement and whatever. Um, since I think that void is there for the taking if someone
Yeah,
can pull
I
it
agree
off.
with that. Final thoughts on Titanfall 2?
It's like I kind of say this in my review. Like I always kind of considered it was like the underrated gem of the FPS genre, but it's a must play of the FPS genre. Like especially the modern, like from like 2014, like onwards. It's a must play if you like first person shooters. It's there's no excuse to not play it. At least I mean even the
Yeah,
campaign, just play the campaign. But multiplayer, like you can find a game. I heard PlayStation's the tough one, but I did not try to play it on
interesting.
PlayStation. We found games quite easily on Xbox, and I found games on PC. So
Yeah. Xbox, you have the bonus of, it's on Game Pass.
PC
So
as well.
it's, yeah. Oh, good, good, good. Yeah. So I think that probably helps keep the community alive. Um, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think like the thing I point out in my review for this is that by the time this game had come out, I'd forgotten about first person shooters. I'd long left them behind. And while it wasn't this one that pulled me back in, playing this one reminds me of why these games are so much fun. Um, and it was, funnily enough, like it was playing Apex that made me say, wait, no, I don't, this is fine, but I want the thing. And going back to this, it's just like it feels like the last one of that era. I know it's not, but like it just feels like, hey, we're all moving on now, right? Like especially once we hit the battle royale phase, um, and just the hero shoot, all these things. Like once those happened, like first person shooters had like a new dawn or a new era, and this feels like this is the end, but this is the finale you wanted, I guess, or that you hope for. And yeah, I agree with you. I'm happy people were still playing it in 2025. Um, Campaign's solid, super fun. You can adjust difficulty and play it at your own will. But to Matt's point, like you can switch up things on the fly to help give you a little bit of an edge too. Um, and yeah, the multiplayer, like even though I'm never good at these games online, I have like a couple of games every like 100 games where I'm like super rad, and that's about it. But even this, like to your point, you can shoot the NPCs in each stage. Like you can feel like you're contributing even when you aren't at the top of the leaderboard, which is cool. So now we rank the list. I'm sorry, we rank
Yep, rank the
Titanfall
list.
on the list. No, our ranking of lists comes later. We've got 121 video games here on the list. We're gonna add 122. I like this game quite a bit overall as a package.
Yes, me too. I'm the viewer can kind of see where I'm starting to kind of begin gauging my look.
Where are you gauging your look? What range you in?
Well, I started very high. I was like trying to settle in.
Yeah. I think I have a nice settle point in the 30s is kind of where I'm at right now.
Oh, really? I was kind of in the teens a little bit.
You're in the teens.
A
All
little
right,
bit.
I'm willing.
A little bit.
I like this better than Tears of the Kingdom, but like I don't know if I like this better than
My big thing was like the 4 remake, which is right underneath Tears of the Kingdom.
yeah, 4 remake's definitely better. I think Portal 2 is better.
Probably.
Is it better than Quake 2?
Probably. I don't know. I meant to say probably as in like Quake 2 is probably better.
I'm I'm
Like
riding
there
the wave with you. I know.
there's just stuff below it too that I like better.
I know.
Here we are, another season, another time. I'm saying this list is a mess. Fuck. This this list is a mess. Like Civ 6 is 35, Parasite Eve's 32, and then we look up, and we have like I don't know. This stuff up top's pretty good too.
It is.
I was looking for like a bad outlier, and I can't find one now. As I started to make my
I,
point.
no, I know. But yeah, I'm with you. Like the more that's kind of where I ended up in the 30s because I was like, I like this better than Civ 6. I like this better than Hypnospace. Maybe it's better than Ape Escape. Maybe
I like this better than Ape
not.
Escape.
But do I like it better than Parasite Eve? Def not. However, I also like this better than Device 6, but not as much as Res
Right.
Infinite. So I can
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is where do we want to slot it? I initially had it either. My gut was like right. I can use my cursor here. Like right under Resident Evil 4 somewhere. It was like remake, like maybe like right before Sonic Frontier, or right above Sonic Frontiers. But like if you don't put it there, then I fall again to I don't know. Like I think I fall again to like around like Device 6 or even like Max Payne. Like I could easily, if we don't slot it somewhere, I can keep falling again.
Yeah, I'm with you. Uh, is the campaign that good that you would put it in the teens?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Coupled with the multiplayer being as good as it is.
Multiplayer rules. All right, I'm good. But
Well, like, all
let's
right. So
look in that
well,
range
let's
then.
say this though. Where do we? Maybe this is the way we address the list going forward. Where do we start feeling more confident that there are more games you would put it above than it would fall again? Is it in the 30s for you?
Yeah.
So like in a sampling of 5, let's just say like I put it above, or, below Resident Evil 4, and that 5 immediately below it and above it. It's like I think I like that better. That better. I think we fall again, right?
100%.
So like where I think I'm saying this more hypothetically for myself. Where do I start to feel comfortable where it doesn't drop again? And it might be Undertale's a weird outlier for me in this list, man.
I know. But I'm taking that into consideration too when I'm looking at this. Like, I know I liked Undertale a bit, not as much as you. But like looking at that, like,
I think low 20s is where I start to like feel comfortable, where I like this game better than the others around it. I do like this better than
oh,
Parasite Eve.
better than Parasite Eve. All right. Is it better than Donkey Kong? This is
I
for Game Boy, for those who are not.
I
Yeah.
think right. I
All
think
right. How
Donkey
about
Kong's.
Burnout?
I think. I think the problem. This is where I can't come in with like I think a short FPS is like reigns supreme, like a campaign, because like Burnout 3, like yes, it has a lot of content, but like I never finished it. Donkey Kong
Yeah, yeah.
has a ton of puzzles. By the time like it gets difficult by the end of that game. I think Parasite Eve has some frustrating sequences at points, like that end boss fight. That's incredibly tough. Then there's the Chrysler Building that never like. I'm not saying it's a
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I'm just like I think some of these games outstay their welcome, and there's something to the brevity to the campaign
Yeah.
of it. So I like new number 30 underneath Sonic and All Stars above Burnout.
I'm not gonna fight that.
And also, sorry, I'm looking at it from the website. Breaking kayfabe
Yeah,
here a
it's
little bit. Is
still
it still the true 30? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that fits. I'm with you on like jumping to the teens, but then the more I think about it, like I like this game, but it's not like
Yeah. Yeah, like once
yeah.
we get there, like going above, like I definitely like Undertale better. I think I like Max Payne better. Um, and then below, I like I think this better in Donkey Kong. I think this better in Parasite Eve. I think this better in Ape Escape. I think I'm on the low end of Hypnospace. Well, I can tell by the score I am from you, but I think I like better in Hypnospace. I think even like this better than Civ, honestly.
I do like this better than Civ, and that was the thing that definitely like started it for me was like, okay, well it's better than Civ. How high do I go? And yeah. New number 30. Not a bad place to be on the list. I can tell you next week we probably will not have something in the 30s. Probably.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yep. For the astute viewers at home watching Matt figure out if he still has skin left on his forehead, we are playing Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero next week in episode 594. So be sure to come back and check that one out as we return to the PlayStation to see what Midway was doing with that property. Until then, thanks Titanfall for existing. Thanks Matt. Thank you listener for listening, viewer for viewing. We'll see you next week. Bye.